From Hollywood, California, welcome to Reza Riffs with your host, Keith Reza.
Hey Ben,
What's up, Reza? How you doing?
doing good. How are you?
Pretty good, man.
But yeah, thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it. I know you're a busy guy, so thank you so much. This is gonna be fun.
My my pleasure. Sorry about the reschedule.
Oh, no worries. I get it. So before I'm probably gonna start with the most random question ever because I actually just found out about this and I watched the video. You were interviewed by Larry King.
I was.
How cool and intimidating was that? Because he's like the best interviewer of all time, you know?
It was pretty darn amazing. It was always actually a life goal of mine to be interviewed by Larry King, and I thought it would be for my comedy career, and it ended up not being for that, which I didn't see coming. But it was really interesting. It was really cool, an honor. I'd randomly had breakfast with him many years before that, so it was a little bit demystified, which made it a little bit less stressful. But it was really, really cool to be on Larry King's show, and definitely a high point of my life for sure. And I don't mean high as in I was high. I was not high.
Right, yeah. But no, I mean I was because I I kind of met him, but I didn't really meet him. Like I was in his presence, you know what I mean? Like I never introduced myself because I wrote for Norm Macdonald's podcast and he was one of the guests. And I just remember he comes in, he's like, "You got 60 minutes." So like so Norm interviewed him and then he's like, "All right, time's up." And he just left. I was like,
That's
but I
amazing.
but I was just like, "Oh my God." I thought that was really cool. And I thought that was a great interview, but it would have been so much
Hey,
cool if he interviewed you as a comic, but
no kidding.
yeah.
I used to have an open invite to have breakfast with him after that first time. We had such a good time, but he would have breakfast at like 7:30 in the morning with his old Jewish friends, and I just could never make it there that early. I tried to go a second time. I got there at like 8:15 and they were wrapping up breakfast, and it was just felt very awkward that I was there so much after everybody else was.
7:30 also is a pretty early time to have breakfast for comedians. You know what I mean? Because we're
Very
we're out till like, 2 or 3 a.m. Breakfast is like 11 a.m. for us.
100%, if that.
Yeah. So one of the things, first of all, you're one of my favorite comics,
Thank you, man.
and like you're also like inspiration to me because I also have like a speech stutter and I know sometimes in your comedy, like I could sense that you had difficulties with that. So like it's a very inspirational thing to me to have, because like you're a big success on that.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Yeah, I grew up with a very severe speech problem, a stutter and a disfluency, and couldn't make sounds come out of my vocal cords much of my life from like age 3 or 4 until about 22.
Yeah.
On and off different parts of the year it would come and go, but it was a real challenge in my life that I had to overcome, and I figured it out. I mostly overcame it, and yeah, I'm really proud of that, and I feel like I can help people oftentimes who have that kind of a problem.
Yeah.
But the main tip I give people to do so is, we see a lot of things with public speaking wrong. We feel a lot of anxiety. We feel like we have to be perfect. We have to speak perfectly. People are judging us, and it creates all this tension and anxiety. Where in fact, people aren't really judging you. They have low expectations. They're barely listening. If they're listening for the content, not for how you say things, not for your style of oratory, just because you're on a mic or a stage. It's just they can hear you better. It has nothing to do with the fact that you're special. It's not a fact. You're not special. You're not any different than anybody else. Anybody serving fries or working in an office is just as valuable, if not more so. They're often providing essential services, and we're here for the flavor and for the analysis and for the commentary. And on top of all that, you know, you take a step back and realize we're floating in outer space in a vast unknowable universe. If that doesn't melt away some of your nerves, I don't know what will.
Yeah.
But we just see a lot of that stuff wrong. And when I realized all that, it melted away a lot of my tension, and I was able to speak really fluidly. So now, even when I get on a stage, even if it's in an arena or live on TV to millions, my heart rate doesn't even raise a beat. I just don't care. And also, mathematically, it's easier to speak to bigger groups when
Oh,
you're
for
one on
sure.
one. Yeah, when you're one-on-one, need to be 100% successful. If you and I are talking and I start boring you, I fail. But if you're speaking to a big group, if you have a third of those people listening and laughing and engaged, you're killing it.
Oh, for
And
sure.
so the mathematics just goes up.
Well, I also feel like comedy because like I have autism. I have Asperger's syndrome and I was very nonverbal growing up. And like this is why another like you're a big inspiration to me because like I don't know if you're nonverbal, but you know, the speech stuttering and stuff. Stand-up comedy really saved me because when I'd watch comedy, I'd be like, "Oh, I want to do that." So like, you know, I went to speech therapies and all that stuff because you can't be a stand-up comedian if you don't really know how to talk well, you know. So like that's why I think comedy is really it's a it's a real um healer to a lot of things that I think people don't understand.
Yeah, it's very true. I went to speech therapists much of my childhood, and they didn't really help me as much as my own realizations. But there is one thing that a therapist said to me that did help me a great deal. It was none of the physical techniques. It was when I had read out loud, and she said, "What did you just read about?" And I said, "I don't know. I was focused on reading." And she says, and sounding perfect. And she goes, "Stop worrying about how you come off. Worry about what you're saying. Worry about the content." And that was really powerful to me. That I was really like making myself the issue when it wasn't. Um, you know, uh, we all have our challenges, and it's beautiful when people can overcome them. Asperger's must have been a challenge, probably still is for you to some degree, but it
Oh
must
yeah.
have been a challenge growing up.
Oh yeah. But I mean like I said, comedy, I love comedy. So like that was like the thing that I, you know what I mean? That was like the because I
Hmm.
wasn't gonna be like you know, I don't have the guts to run for president like you. You know what I mean? So like but
I
I
don't
could.
recommend it. I don't recommend it. Also, Asperger's, difficult condition, but also the worst name possible for a burger place.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, yeah, definitely.
I would not eat at Asperger's.
No, no, definitely. The guy who like created it, his name was Hans Asperger, and like it was just like, why couldn't it have been like a better last name or something? You know what I mean? Like they come up with all
His
these
name was
just
Hans Asperger. I didn't even realize that Hans was on that ass as well.
exactly. I kind of think I'd probably like that'd be more funnier. I feel, you know what I mean? But now it's called Autism of Support, so.
Autism with support.
Autism of Support. Yeah, they changed it like
Autism of
7 years ago.
support.
Yeah,
That's a weirdly phrased sentence, but it definitely sounds better than Asperger's.
yeah, definitely. But I wanted to ask you about your San Diego days because you kind of had like a Wayne's World adventure where you had your own talk show on like the college stations. I wanted to know like how do you come up with that idea to do it like that? Like because that's so unique and you know I wish I did that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I always wanted to be a late night talk show host. I actually have some plans in the works to do it again. And when I got to UCSD, there's 5 colleges at UCSD at the time. Now there's like 7 or 8, but within it, so there were smaller microcosms, and each college had its own TV station.
Yeah.
And so it seemed like a good opportunity to be able to create your own programming by getting involved in the local station. So or the college station. So I first started doing a live call-in show called the Whatever Live Show. I did for 4 years. I became the station manager of the station, and ran it for 3 years, and even got paid a little bit to do that. Then I gave myself my own late night talk show and just got to have this great creative outlet that ended up being really all I focused on in my college education. I'm not sure if I learned much in any of my classes, but I learned how to produce, write, create, edit, deliver television during college, and it was the best thing I ever did. It ended up being my honors thesis program. I had 16 friends, each getting 4 units my senior year to work on my show. I had a personal trainer getting units, a personal assistant getting units. It was some Van Wilder shit going on.
Yeah.
And on top of that, I had my speech problem throughout much of my college. Even my fourth annual live Glebe show with Carmen Electra as my guest, 3,000 students in the crowd. I
Oh,
watched that
nice.
tape back a few years ago, and I'm stuttering and getting vocal blocks throughout the whole thing.
Yeah. But it was probably
And I
because
just,
Carmen Electra's right there, right?
I mean, that did not help. Probably that did not help. That isn't that she is a beautiful woman.
Yeah. So like how do you like, for example, how do you get her? Like, did you just write her? Because I feel like, when you're famous it's easier, but when you're not famous it's a lot harder. You know what I mean?
That is very true. No, it was very hard to get a guest. We tried for a lot of people, but I got a big budget put together for that show. I think our total budget for the fourth annual Glebe show was $15,000, which is amazing for a college production. And we put 10,000 of those dollars into our guest.
Oh,
And so
nice.
this was a big part of the education I got by doing that show is we started calling Hollywood managers, agents, bookers, publicists, and trying to get the biggest guests we could. And we pitched for Carmen Electra, and she wanted 10 grand. We sent a car, we picked her up, and picked her up in a personal vehicle, drove her back in a black car, but picked her up in a personal vehicle of one of our staffers. And she agreed, came up, and she was a pretty good sport. Did a sketch with me at the beginning of the show where we pretended like she was a fan of mine. And I didn't know who she was. And we did a great interview live in front of the crowd. And it was such an interesting interview that E reached out to me after I graduated and licensed from me clips of my interview and used 7 clips of my college interview with her on her E True Hollywood story. So that was my first big national television debut.
Oh my God, how cool is that? You know what I mean?
It was pretty tight. It was actually my second uh, national TV appearance because the first was sophomore year of college during winter break. I came back to LA where I live and went to City Walk, and Jay Leno was shooting, or the Grove or something, and Jay Leno was shooting jaywalking, and I went in there and was on jaywalking and like turned the tables on Jay and made him laugh really hard, and that was my first big one.
Oh, that's awesome. And then like this formula was the exact same thing because you took it on a show and you sold it to National Lampoon, right?
That's correct, man. You do your research. I love it.
Yeah.
People don't ask me about these things. I love it.
I'm sorry. Should I not ask you about
No,
that? Oh,
no, I love
oh,
it. I get to talk
oh.
about different things, man. Normally I have to talk about the same things over and over again, so I love this chance. Um, yeah, sold it to National Lampoon, which was the brand we all grew up loving, and did it for 3 seasons for the National Lampoon Network, and did 21 episodes of the Glebe show for them. The first 2 seasons were a late night talk show, then the network um uh had a lot of their budget cut for the third season. Partly my show helped bankrupt the network because we upped the production value of their whole network and challenged them to like make their shows not look so ghetto.
Right.
And then they didn't make money. And so the third season, they cut our budget significantly and said it couldn't be a talk show anymore. But if you want to still do a show, we can give you this amount. And so we just made it a single camera comedy with that would tangent off Mr. Show style or Monty Python style into hidden camera bits and sketches and man on the street bits. And that expanded our creativity a lot too. And that's the format we ended up partnering with Lorne Michaels and Broadway Video and selling to Fox, and almost got to do it at Fox. And then that went away when they fired the comedy department, unfortunately. But
Oh man.
this business is full of, opportunities, excitements, and then false starts and restarts. And you just have to be so patient to make it in this business because there's no job security ever,
Oh no.
unfortunately.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like you're only as good as your last gig. You know what I mean?
And
Like,
not even that. It's almost like a restart whenever each gig ends, unless
yeah.
you have a great team behind you. You restart. You don't always get another gig. I had my game show Idiot Test. It was the #1 show on Game Show Network. That show ended. I didn't get another show after that. I haven't had my own show on television since that. It's like you just sometimes have to go back to the drawing board even after a hit. So it's a frustrating business, but the highs are great. The creativity is great. The creative freedom make it worthwhile for me. But it's not something I would recommend to most people. It is not for the faint of heart. It's not for people who care about job security or being able to relax or being able to not think about your job 24 hours a day. If you are a workaholic who likes to always be figuring out your next move, then maybe entertainment's the path for you.
Right. Now, would you say, because you had your game show, would you say like as a stand-up comedian, I feel like that's every comic's dream to either host a game show or write a book. You know what I mean?
Are those the two big
I
big
don't
big goals?
I feel like that's every comic's goal. You know what I mean? Like they either want the game show or they want to write a book.
I never wanted to host a game show, so when I got the opportunity, I did it in as creative a way as I could, where I would try to make myself a really um, weird, funny presence. I was a hard ass. I made the contestants come and earn my respect. I didn't want to be a cheesy game show host at all, so I made it fun and added tons of comedy to it. You can still watch the show, Idiot Test,
Yeah.
on Pluto TV and Game Show Central, but I also have had a book in the works, two different books in the works for many years. I have a book agent. I just can't ever bring myself to focus on it with all the other things that pull my attention.
Yeah, writing a book is really, really tough. I mean, I'm trying to write a book. I've been writing it for like 20 years, and
Right.
I just have the title is How to Annoy Yourself to the Top. That's it.
I don't even know what that means. What does that mean?
Well, because I guess I annoy people. I guess I don't know.
But
I
why
don't know.
annoy yourself?
No, how to annoy yourself to the top, like or how to struggling like a memoir, like how to get all these cool people to do your podcast, be annoying. I don't know.
I hate to tell this to you, considering it's the only part of the book you've written, but the title needs a little bit of work. I
Oh,
think
okay,
maybe
okay.
how how to annoy people to the top
Oh, maybe,
might
yeah.
make a little bit more sense because annoy yourself sounds like annoy yourself. You just because on the count of the words you're using. But back to the game
Maybe.
show thing. Having a game show ended up being the most fun gig ever. I would do it again in a heartbeat. I hope they bring the show back one day. It's not likely, but it's a really, really fun gig. Writing a book, I think, would be less fun, but it would be cool when it's done and you have a book in your hand that you wrote. That would be nice. I'm thinking about calling my book "How to Annoy Yourself to the Top." I don't know if you like it, but
That's what I was going to do. Ah,
that's what I'm thinking about.
that'd be great. But when you were doing the idiot test, like, did you do stand up after you filmed it? Like how, like that must have been like, help you with the sales and stuff because you're on the game show. You know what I mean?
Oh, for sure. I mean, during production, I wouldn't do very much stand up. We were just too busy. We'd shoot 5 episodes a day, but we'd shoot the whole season of 65 episodes in about 6 weeks. So it flew by. But absolutely, I mean, it definitely helped my ticket sales on the road and helped me be a draw headliner. Really helped a lot. But
Yeah.
but it didn't, it's amazing how many things you need to like truly change the game. Game shows are seen a lot by older people. They don't really go out. They don't follow on social media. They don't know your. So many people that are fans of my game show don't even know I'm a stand comic, which is quite frustrating. But
Yeah.
what can you do?
When you were doing the game show, did you like ever like when you do these tests, do you ever think, oh my God, these guys are truly idiots, and then you fail the test yourself?
No, because after season one, I wrote all the tests with the writing staff.
Oh, nice.
Um, Season one, I wasn't involved in it. They didn't let me, and I just said I need to be involved in it because it's my name on the show. It's me going out there and making fun of people and calling them idiots for not getting things right. So I need to believe in the tests and be part of it. So I wrote some from scratch, and I was involved in all of them. And we had a brilliant writing staff, but I wanted to make sure that I was involved. I took the tests early. Definitely, some of them stumped me for sure. But overall, I got pretty good at them just by kind of learning the thought process of our writing staff and helping to tweak them. So by the time we went to air, I was an expert on these tests, and I felt I had the
Oh, that's
authority
awesome.
to destroy their self confidence on national television.
Yeah, that's the coolest. I mean,
It was fun.
I don't want to ask you to give me an idiot test because I would fail it. But
I'm gonna give you one right now. You just asked for it. I'm gonna give you one right now.
okay, sure.
When you're in a running race,
Uh,
what place are you in when you pass the second place person?
you'd be in second place, right?
Well done, my man.
Yeah,
That's
because
correct. A lot of people say first, but you haven't passed the person first yet. You just passed the person in second, so you're the new second. I'm sorry, I keep rubbing off this speck of dirt on my screen. That's driving me nuts.
no worries. You would be first if you passed the first place guy.
Correct. Listen, you're smarter than most people. You're no idiot. You didn't want to take the test. I forced you to do it, and you
It took
succeeded and
it took me a
exceeded
long
with
time to answer
flying
that
colors.
though because I was thinking, because like in the answer is actually in the question. Does that make sense?
Well, the answer is always in the question. Otherwise, you
Yeah,
couldn't answer it.
that's why you gotta like really, yeah, put on that thinking cap. You know what I mean?
And
But
you're wearing a literal cap, which also helps.
Yeah, well, because with my Asperger's, I'm very sensitive to light, and I have a ring light. So whenever I interview people, I have to wear a cap so the light doesn't hit me. So that's why. Like I know if I had a real talk show, I would not probably wear a cap.
Well, you would have to. There would still be lights.
Yeah, maybe I'd wear like the Mitch Hedberg shades. You know what I mean?
Well, you could do that now. No one's stopping you.
Yeah, but I didn't want to go to the sunglasses store. Like I wanted to
Store
interview.
is far away. That's a good point. That's a very good point.
When I
Hard to get to
start
stores.
when I started comedy, you ran Comedy Juice,
Yep.
and
Created it too.
you created it. Yeah, and I always remember I was like, oh my God, I like that was my goal to do Comedy Juice, and then I find out like years later it's been sold like 10 times.
It has not been sold 10 times, but it was sold. I sold it to Steve Hofstetter. He sold it to Raymond Montoya. I believe it's just those three
Oh, I thought
exchanges.
for some reason Mark Sartella had it and this guy named.
No, there was just a lot of people that ran it. Sarah Teller ran it. Sarah Mello ran it. Um, Burns ran it, who's now at Live Nation. Um, a lot of different people ran it over the years. Andrew Stahl, this dude named Josh ran it for a while. A lot of different folks we put in charge, but they didn't own it.
uh, And then, but then also when the pandemic happened, because here's another thing that's fascinating about you that I don't think you realize, or maybe you do. When the pandemic happened, you created Nowhere Comedy Club, and that like really saved a lot of comics' lives in a
What
way.
comedy club? I think you might have cut out during.
The Nowhere Comedy Club was the Zoom comedy club.
Oh,
Yeah.
I did create that. I'm
Yeah,
kidding. Yes, I did.
yeah, yeah, and like it saved a lot of comics' lives because comics can't go perform and stuff, and you gave them a platform. So like I wanted to ask like how like where did you say okay, hey, I'm gonna do this like that? Like what gave you that idea?
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, it ended up being a really great lifeline for a lot of people. And not just for the comics, for the audience too. I got so many countless letters of audience saying literally we saved their lives with it. We gave them community, we gave them entertainment and catharsis at a time when they needed it. But the idea really came from wanting to help the comedy community and wanting to help myself. I all of a sudden I'd come out of my presidential campaign. I was near broke at the time. I didn't have at least any liquid money that I was able to access. And now all of a sudden comedy clubs are closed worldwide and I needed to make money. And I thought, how can I still do stand up, which is always like bread and butter base source of money without venues being open. And I just closed my eyes for a minute and I thought, how can we create a digital comedy club? I bet if we went on a video conferencing platform and did the opposite of what I saw people starting to do, actually let people keep their cameras on this time, let them keep their mics on and just manage the sound, produce it in a way that it sounded good, I bet it would be pretty close to performing live. And that's what we created. And I brought Hofstetter on board. I pitched him the idea and we created the club together and I was CEO, he was COO, and we just went off and running and created this really great venue that nobody else was able to create something similar. Some people did some, live stand-up shows and would do some of our techniques for sure, or, figured some things out on their own. But our biggest competitor ended up being Rush Ticks, and they were unable to do live audience for the whole audience. They didn't even try to do it. And we still do it now. Hofstetter left the game a while ago, but I'm still running it by myself, and it's a much smaller endeavor right now. And hoping we one day we'll be able to get it back up. But it was an incredible thing. We've done like almost 800 shows,
Yeah,
generated millions of dollars in revenue, split among all the comedians that were able to come and do shows with us, and gave people a chance to make money, gave people a lot of laughter, and it feels really close to doing stand up. I remember Bill Burr came and did one of our shows here, and we ended up building a studio in my house for the bigger shows because most people would do shows from their own computers,
right.
but some of the bigger names would come do shows from the studio we built in my house, and Burr performed. And I'm walking him to his car after, and I said, "So what do you think? Was it pretty close to being in a club or a theater?" And he goes, "Not at all." And I go, "Okay, fair enough. But was it way better than these stupid drive-in shows where people are honking at you?" And he goes, "Oh my God, far and away, so much better. Pretty close considering that." And so, I think I think we do a pretty good job, and I'm really happy that we were able to create that. I feel like I often create things that are good for the community, good for the country, maybe for others, and it sometimes distracts me from focusing on my own career.
Right.
And maybe I would be a little bit further along if I just focused solidly on my own comedy more. But what can you do? You are who you are.
Yeah, but I think that that's very admirable too, though, because you're giving chances and opportunities to other comics. So, like, you said if you focus more on yourself, these comics wouldn't have these opportunities. So, like that, I'm actually very thankful for because I love comedy and stuff.
Thanks, buddy. I appreciate those words. Yeah, it's nice to know people remember these things and notice them because in this crazy, everyone creating tons of content, pounds after pounds of content every day, you feel like things get lost and forgotten about. So it's nice to know if people remember some of these things.
Yeah. And then I wanted to ask you, like, who's a comedian that is alive today that you've never met or seen live that you would like to work with in some capacity, like a
That
TV
I've never
show?
met or seen live.
Yeah.
I mean, I've met most of the greats very fortunately, which is nice. I've not worked with all of them, so there's some I'd like to work with, but one I've never met. John Stewart, I'd love to work with one day. That would be great. I never met him. Um, I'd love to be on Saturday Night Live one day, and I have not been really. I mean, I'm buddies with a few cast members over the years, but I don't think the current cast I really have anybody I'm too close with.
Right.
Met Colin Jost though, I guess technically. Yeah, I think John Stewart's an answer. I would be fun to work with. I don't think who else I don't know. Uh, I guess Stewart would probably be my answer for that. Even though he disappoints me in some of his opinions these days, but overall, I think he's just so brilliant. Uh, yeah, that's the answer I would say. I'd like to
Oh,
be on Bill Maher one day as well, but I have met him and hung with him and smoked pot with him, so I guess it doesn't qualify for your question.
oh, that's still is he a cool hang?
He is a cool hang. He's both. He has a reputation of being a little bit of a dick, and he was the first time I met him, he was really nice. Second time I met him, he was a dick. But then later that night we ended up smoking pot and he was a cool hang.
Yeah.
So he's a little standoffish at times, but once you like get in with him, he's pretty cool.
Do you think that do you think like being standoffish is actually like a comic like thing? Because I've gotten that I'm standoffish before and I don't feel I am, but I feel a lot of comics
I don't
kind
know.
of
I mean,
are.
some things are objective. Like the first time I met him, he saw me do stand up at the Improv, and I was up to him, went up to him after on Melrose when he was waiting for his car, and he was really nice.
Yeah.
Then we did a show at the Ice House together, and we just like kind of like said hi backstage for a second, like kind of like just nodded at each other. But then I was at a party he was at a couple years later, and I was like not sober, and I fanboyed a little hard. Maybe that was annoying, but I was talking to Maria Shriver about politics. Bill Maher walks by, and I go, Bill Maher, I just want to say how much of a fan of yours I am. We did a show together at the Ice House actually, and at the Improv. You saw me perform, and I just think you're so great. And what you do on your show, and he looks at me and he goes, I'm gonna keep walking. I mean, I think that's pretty overtly standoffish. That's not like accidental standoffish.
Yeah.
But like later that night, I had a weed pen. It was the early days of vape pens, and I was in a circle with some pretty notable people, and he was there, and he was super cool at that point, and we were riffing about how ineffective the high from vape pens are. So he's
Yeah.
been cool. And I ran into him a couple times after, and he remembered me, and he was really nice. Overall, I'd say very nice. But I also get it when you're a certain level of star. Probably people are coming at you all the time, and you don't want to always be sidetracked. I just think you could be a little friendlier in the way you say it. You could say, "I really appreciate it, but I'm heading this way. Nice to meet you," and keep walking, rather than "I'm gonna keep walking." But you also, Bill Maher has a little bit of that vibe on air too, which is part of what we love about him. So it's all good.
Yeah. like not to down the clubs, but what's a club that like you feel comfortable even if you're not even on the show, just going to hang? Like, do you like the Improv, the Laugh Factory, or the Store? Because there's different vibes at both of them. You know what I mean?
I think the
Oh,
stores is the only one that's really cultivated a great hang vibe over the years.
yeah.
I don't go and hang much when I'm not on stage, but if I ever go anywhere, it's the store. They have so many different vibes and areas, and you see, so because they have 3 rooms going to, you just see so many of your friends. So the is the hang for sure.
The Store is like it's kind of ghostly too. Like it's kind of haunted in a way. You know what I mean?
That's what they say. I've never really experienced too much of the haunting vibes there. Maybe once I had a weird vibe, but um, it's a real cavernous, large, incredible, legendary, weird, mysterious place for sure. And there's always new rooms. Like I've been going there 20 plus years, and there's always a new room I find, a new office hidden behind a door, a new podcast studio downstairs, a new hidden thing. It's just I feel like it's a labyrinth that can't be conquered.
Yeah. You want to hear my ghost story at the Comedy Store?
Please.
Okay, so I was at the Comedy Store just hanging, and like it was just the hallway like before you go in the OR room, like where the bathroom is and
Course.
stuff.
Yeah, the main
So,
hall, sure.
so this is when Tommy Morris was booking it, right? And so no one was at the store
What a
back then, right?
character. What a
Yeah,
character.
he was a character. I mean, great guy, I guess. But like no one was at the store back then, right? Like it wasn't popping like it is now. So I'm just hanging right there, and then the bathroom door opens, and it's Andy Dick.
Of course.
So like that just kind of haunted me because I don't know if you've ever seen Andy Dick come out of a bathroom. It's the scary kind of scary.
I've seen Andy Dick do lots of stuff. Andy is a friend and a real character.
Yeah.
And as I'm sure he would admit, when he is not sober, he can be a bit of a nightmare, but when he's sober, he's like the nicest,
Oh,
most
he's the
thoughtful,
sweetest.
chill
Yeah.
guy.
He
Um,
he
but
wasn't sober that night, but
fair
yeah.
enough. Yeah, he can be quite a Tasmanian devil when he's not sober, as everybody knows. There's a movie, a documentary called "Everybody Has an Andy Dick Story" that you could check out, but everybody does. And and but I don't know why I'm going back to this, but I don't know if Tommy from the Comedy Store was a great guy.
Oh
He
yeah.
was a real power hungry, crazy dude. Not power hungry, but rather, but power. Let the power of his position go to his head in a large way. I remember when I had idiot test on the air, and I was still trying to get passed as a regular there. And he said to me, literally said the following sentence to me: "Been watching your game show, and my dog and I are watching it. My dog really responds to you, so I'm really thinking about having you become more of a regular here. Just need you to come show up." And I was just like, "Your dog
That's a
deciding
great
if I'm going to be a
impression.
regular? Thank you." And then I like had to show up a bunch more and hang, and he never made me a regular, and he just jerked me around. And I said, "Hey, you'd said if I came for the next few months, you'd make me regular." "I never said that." I'm like, You did say it, but okay, great. So thanks for nothing.
That's a great impression of him though. Uh
Thank you.
so Ben, I want to respect your time, but I have two quick questions for you. I wanted to ask
Please.
you about the Mad King because I think that that's one of the best specials out there. And
Thank you, man.
uh like I don't know if you're still, but like I saw like on hollywoodimprov.com that like you're running your new hour and stuff for your new special. I wanted to know like do you have like anxiety or intense on like writing material for a new hour thinking like, oh, how is it going to be just as good or better?
I don't really get anxiety much about anything, to be honest. Thankfully, I think I've conquered a lot of that in my life. I just filmed my new special. It's called
Oh,
Ending,
nice.
and it was amazing. We did 2 beyond sold out tapings at Hotel Cafe. I'm really, really proud of it. Kelly Carlin, George Carlin's daughter, the amazing Kelly, is an EP on it, and Christian Lamb, the incredible director, directed it. And I look forward to finishing the edit and selling it somewhere soon. I mean, obviously, you want to keep surpassing what you did before, but trying to do that as an active thought is not the way to do it. You
Yeah.
just have to write from your heart and write your best stuff. This special endings is incredibly personal. It's very different than anything I've ever done on stage, and so it's just different. And I think it's a lot of people told me they think it's the best thing I've done. I'd like to believe it is because you want to keep improving and evolving as an artist for sure. But it's different. It might not be everybody's cup of tea. I wrote this thing as a catharsis for anybody going through a hard time. But the Mad King, as far as what's out there for my stand up, I think is the best thing I've done. So if you want to watch that, it's on YouTube. Please watch it and share it. And and but my first special, I'm also proud of. Neurotic Gangster. It was on Showtime back in the day. Now it's on Amazon Prime. It's also on YouTube in 5 parts if you like watching your comedy split up into
20
chunks,
minutes. Yeah.
7 minutes each chunk, 8 minutes. Um, I think you'll enjoy that. But no, each thing is different. I definitely want to top it if I can, but I don't think putting that pressure on yourself is the move. I think if anything, I am disappointed in most specials that I see.
Yeah.
And so, not that you should ever lower your bar, but it just took some pressure off me. I'll watch specials by even some of the greatest comics or people that are considered to be the most popular. And I'll watch a whole hour and I laugh 3 times, if at all, really. And people love it. And so I know I'm delivering specials that make you laugh a lot more than that. And so as long as I'm doing what I'm proud of and it's got a lot of laughs in there, a lot of jokes, a lot of creative different turns, I'm happy with it.
Yeah. That's going to be my new goal for my next special is make Ben laugh more than 3 times.
Please, I would love it. If I laugh 6 times in a special, that'll be one of the greats.
Okay, excellent. Now,
I hope when you watch my specials, you're gonna laugh like 50 to 100 times. That's my goal, is to make you laugh a shitload.
well,
So
no,
I hope that's what I deliver.
like I said, the Mad King I think is one of the best, and I watch a lot of specials. I think it's one of the best ones. You know what I mean?
Thank you, man. I really appreciate that. I'm very proud of it. But that's another an example of the frustrating things in this business is, it's got 160,000 views on YouTube. It's not nothing, but it's not great. And there's a lot of specials out there, with all respect, that are not as funny and have millions of views.
Yeah.
You know, I guess there's no accounting for taste. Maybe other people think it's a lot funnier than mine. It's certainly possible, but I don't think mine is 1/10 or 1/30th as funny as some of these other ones. But the views just don't always match up to the quality you're putting out there. So there's no accounting for taste, and you also can't be too tied to results. If you're worried about numbers, this business will frustrate you forever. So you just have to be about the work, really.
No, for sure. And I also feel like that's also how like I kind of connect with you in a way because like I thought my hour special, Make It Happen, best thing I've ever done. You know what I mean? And I'm very proud of it. But it and maybe because it got released during the pandemic or whatever, which you think it might give it a more of a up, but it's just the numbers just aren't there. You know what I mean? It does frustrate me, but at the same time, I know as an artist, I'm proud of it. I know it's the best work. So for my next adventure, that's where I'm at. Like, how do I make it better than that? And that's where I struggle as a comic. You know what I mean?
Totally. Yeah. I love that we bond over how low our numbers are, but
No, I didn't mean
I
it
love
like
about you,
that.
Ben, is how low your views are.
I didn't mean it
Um,
like that. I'm sorry. I meant it
no, I
like
fully
I
get
feel
it.
like we have the same type of path. So like that's what I meant.
Yeah. Yeah, no, yeah, you just can't worry about that. I mean, you have to figure it out. You gotta, be better at marketing these days. A big part of being a comic is marketing and consistency of social media posts. And I'm still trying to get a lot better and more consistent at that. I don't seem to be able to like ever be too consistent at that stuff. So I'm trying to crack that code still. But as long as you're putting out work there, at least, and you can pay your bills and you can then feel proud of what you do and hopefully have a career that you're proud of, and maybe one day it'll click into that next level with the populace, and things start flying at another level.
Yeah,
That would be fun.
that'll be fun. And my last question for you, Ben, is if you could go into a time machine and talk to a younger version of yourself, right? It could be from yesterday or it could be from when you were a kid or whatever, but you know what you know now. What advice would you tell yourself?
I would tell myself, relax. It's gonna be all right. You're gonna have a great career. You're gonna make a lot of your dreams come true. Eventually, you're gonna make all your dreams come true, or most of them. Um, you're gonna be able to get past this speech problem, so don't worry about it. Take a deep breath. I know girls don't like you now, but that'll change as well. Um, I would also tell myself to be a little less stubborn and a little more open in compromise with relationships, because I would have liked to have maybe found my life partner already at this stage in life, and maybe that advice would have changed that. But I would just tell myself, be patient, take a deep breath. It's all going to work out. The things you're frustrated by now will work themselves out.
Oh, that's a great answer. Well, Ben,
Thank you very much.
where can the folks at home follow and support you at, like social media wise? Instagram,
I
Twitter?
appreciate it, Keith. Thanks, man. At Ben Gleib on Instagram and Twitter, Gleib. Um, I'm on Instagram all the time. I don't tweet that much these days, but I do once in a blue. Instagram is where I'm addicted. TikTok, I post some things too, but Instagram is my daily go-to, where I try to grow the most and entertain people the most. And then bengleib.com is where I'll put the big stand-up dates. In my Instagram stories, I put the smaller shows. And the link in bio on my Instagram has links to all the things I do, my 2 specials and my show and my stuff with the Young Turks, my Rebel HQ videos, my debates, link to my campaign website, the Telethon for America, if you're curious in some of the things I've done in the past. A
Yeah.
lot of random stuff is there. So just check out at Ben Gleib on Twitter, and I mean on Instagram. And most importantly, I would love if your podcast listeners subscribe to my podcast, Last Week on Earth. I summarize the world each week or most weeks: news, politics, pop culture, entertainment, trends, weird stories, whatever happened during the last week on Earth. I try to summarize it for you, sometimes with incredible guests, but often solo inside the strange recesses of my mind. So if that sounds appealing, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
Well, rate and review it.
And that would be great too.
Yeah. All right. Well, Ben, I'm gonna let you go, but before you leave, I wanted to ask you a question off the clock if I could. So I'm gonna stop
Sure.
recording. So
Sure.
Rifters, check out Ben Gleib, subscribe, rate, review, and we'll see you guys next week on Reza Rifts.
And thanks for having me, buddy.
Of course. I love you.